All right, America. This is Vinney Chopra, the co-host of the Vinney and Bo Show. We come live to you every Friday, 9:30 Pacific, 9:30 or 12:30 Eastern. Bo Heckstein, my brother, right here, co-host. We've been coming to you for about 2 years now, almost, and we are very excited to have a great guest today. Jennifer is in the house. Jennifer Steward. She's an off-market real estate acquisitions and disposition specialist, guys. Off-market deals, they are the craze. I mean, that is the biggest thing. Who has helped over a dozen real estate investors build their successful companies through virtual processes. And the best part is she has been in sales for over 20 years and is a mother of two. She graduated with a science degree in psychology and then started a successful business development company that helped companies to grow in several industries such as a customer base before eventually finding a niche off market deals real estate. She's currently as an agency of the virtual businesses development specialist that cater to all the industries. Oh, wow. Not only just real estate, Jennifer, all kinds of them. All right. No, we'll let her kind of speak and tell us how she can really help your businesses and our businesses. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Vinney. It's wonderful to be here. So about 5 years ago, I started doing virtual processes in business development for all different types of industries across not only the United States, but across the world. And I've been able to fortunately do that through a platform that I know everyone here has heard of called Upwork. And it kind of started there and expanded from there. And so, I mean, I did sales from everything to lighted mirrors to car financing in Canada, doctor software in Norway, some manufacturing concerns out of China, so kind of all over the world. But occasionally I kept getting these real estate investors and I kept finding myself gravitating back towards the real estate investing in the United States. And I just loved it because I saw two things. Number one, excellent profit margins, which we're all aware of, and the unique opportunity to help people who at that time otherwise couldn't be helped any other way except with a cash offer. So that really just made me stick with, okay, I'm going to keep doing work for these real estate investors in the United States because I love the interaction over the phone with the home sellers. And I'm sure, Vinney, you can speak to that, what a difference you can make by building something that people can take pride in, that they can live in and enjoy a higher quality of life.
So true, so true. I mean, again, if real estate is such a field, so many different facets to it, right, Bo? My brother Bo is actually in loans. I mean, he's the best loan broker in USA. And, of course, I'm the best syndicator. Oh, I don't know about that. In real estate, it has totally changed our lives, to be in the real estate field. So let me ask you a question. Is it mostly residential real estate or commercial? And in what facets you are finding yourself really immersed now in USA?
Yeah, so it has mostly been residential. I have gone a little bit into commercial, but considering where the economy has been kind of since I started, residential has been a space where your mom and pop investors want to get started and get their feet wet. I've done a little bit of commercial in terms of calling on land for developers. I know which questions to ask for that. Does this piece of land need a variance in order to be buildable? How much frontage road does it have? Things like that. But I haven't done a whole lot of acquisitions in terms of restaurant space. I haven't done a lot in terms of the mall conversions. So I would say that my specialty is at the moment off market residential versus commercial. Yes, that's true.
So like where did, for listeners out there, where does this all start? Like, so obviously you need to have the confidence to get started on the phone, because even, scripting what you're going to say and actually picking up the phone and calling, right? Like if you're a newer investor and you don't maybe have the capability or outsourcing this to a team or whatever, you need to like, if you need to make money, maybe you want to get some wholesale deals under your belt. What are some tips and tricks you're seeing out there? Like, can you talk about like lead stacking, like where you're getting your lists, where you find the hidden gems, like in these telemarketing lists? Like, how do you go about like going, if I'm an investor and I want to hire Jennifer's company, what does our initial conversation look like? Like I'm already doing, 5 or 3 or 4 wholesale deals a month, let's say, but I want to grow to 10 or 12 or 15 a month. Well, how are you like seeing these investors really grow their businesses using strategic marketing?
Great questions, Bo. So to take on your first point about people who don't quite have maybe the bandwidth to run a team yet and who want to get on the phone and do it themselves, right? Which I think is fantastic. It's a great way to start, and even it's a great way to continue depending on your goals. So I would say whenever I first started, I was terrified and terrible. And I tell people that you need to push through the phase of being terrified and terrible. Give yourself the grace, right, to have that space of, okay, for a little while, I'm going to be absolutely terrible and terrified. But with each call, you get better and better. And it takes pushing through that phase of awkwardness to really get excellent. But it doesn't take very long to be effective. It may take a long time to become excellent, but it does not take very long to become effective. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, totally.
So people just want to know, can you help them? Can you buy the property, and can you come close to their price? So to get back to your other questions, Bo, about how have I been able to help these companies grow from just one person who's been cold calling themselves to vast teams to where they go from making, 1 or 2 deals a month to sometimes up to 40 deals a month, where I've been the primary, employee to help them grow it to that point. So I'll get into the juicy stuff there. So right now, what I'm finding with the FCC regulations that came out on June 30th, the onus is on the carriers to mark those calls from auto dialers as spam calls. However, I am still getting a pretty decent contact rate in the secondary and tertiary markets. That meaning that any of your primary markets, like your big city markets, those lists, what I'm finding, are severely beat up. And I'm still in the trenches every day, making calls myself along with my team, because I like to keep my chops sharp. It's not about the pay at this point. It's about staying relevant and knowing what my team is facing in the field every day. So what I'm seeing is the contact rates for the primary markets are extremely low. So you may want to move to a multimodal approach in those primary markets, texting, ringless voicemail, which again, be careful with the FCC on both of those. Pay-per-clicks are typically pretty awesome in terms of if you can call them back in 5 minutes, 2 out of 3 of those will convert into a deal. But the catch is you have to be able to call them back within 5 minutes, because other people are going to be calling them. But if you're one of the first ones to get to them, you'll do excellent. And mailers, believe it or not, still really work in some primary markets. So if you're going to be attacking a primary market, you need to make sure and have a budget to be able to do a multimodal approach to your marketing outreach. If you're planning on staying in, like we talked about, Bo, the higher cap rate areas, but with a slower appreciation, if you just want a cold call, you will probably do just fine and get plenty of deals for those secondary and tertiary markets. Something you may want to speak to, Bo, are the loan differentials in those different markets and how you may want to structure the cost of your capital into your acquisitions for those markets.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's, from my experiences, when I did a few mailings in the Midwest, the phone rang off the hook. If I did that same mailing in the West Coast, nobody would call you back. So I think market by market, and I would say, for anybody that's listening, that's thinking, oh, wow, there's all these things I can do. Well, just start with one. I think the most inexpensive way, if you're a do-it-yourselfer for now, right? Because if you're just getting started, you might not have a lot of money to implement a lot of these strategies. So, you got to start with, first you got to build up enough courage to get on the phone. And whether that's that might be, and this conversation today, I think, is relevant, not just for like motivated sellers, but talking to brokers, right? Like if you want to get some deals, and especially in like the multifamily world, right? Like it's building a broker network to get these off-market deals, not so much. I mean, yes, you can go belly to belly, and Vinney's got a couple students that do that really well. Then they'll call sellers directly and find these large multifamily deals. But I think the easiest way for anybody out there that's like, hey, I want to do this. I'm working my W-2 job right now. I want to get started, and it's really like, it's not that complicated. It's like picking up the phone and starting like, who am I going to get to? And then as you're going, you're obviously learning techniques like where you can get these lists, and they batch these lists, and they make sure they're in compliance. They test, like you can get really honed in, I guess. And Jennifer probably gets these lists is where, you can have a not where the owner lives out of the state, where the owner, it's free and clear, where there's a code violation, where there's all this stuff. And that's what do they call it? Batching or
stacking.
Yeah, so stacking, sorry.
Stacking, I see. Yeah.
So they stack these lists, and like maybe you get your first list, costs you a couple $100, and you count on this list. And really, I mean, I think before you get on the phone, you should take a day or two and write out your script, and not read it word for word, but read times and get really good at that. And so kind of like circling back, I kind of went off the radar on that, what Jennifer was saying. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously some markets, they get 1,000 pieces of mail a month. Some get like no mails, right? And some get no calls, and some actually answer calls because, if, like depending on where you live, you're used to getting spam calls, right? So you're just getting, but some markets aren't getting those calls. So it's interesting. So where do you find for residential real estate? I guess the question is what lists do you really think are working the best right now? And I know it dependent on market, but what's working well for you guys?
So I also have my own wholesaling company, Bo, that that I have started. And so for my money, my capital, what my clients choose versus what I choose can often be very different. And for me, for the bang for my buck is I go for vacant. So you can get these on PropStream, and you can get these on ListSource. And there are plenty of people who are willing to skip trace on Upwork, Fiverr, and these other places. And then there are also more commercial skipping as well. That are typically more expensive. I think you can get through PropStream. And I use a great guy. His name is Atif out of Pakistan. He does like 5 cents per lead and then 10 cents per LLC. So he has a really great price, high accuracy rating. So what I use is I only go to vacant, and then I stack from there. Because in all my years of being in the trenches doing the cold calling, the vacant people, if they have a vacant property, typically they have some kind of problem. Either vagrants are going to possibly be coming in, the neighbors don't like it, they tend to be neglected often in terms of care for your average property owner. And also on my dispo side, which we haven't gotten to yet, most hedge funds can close same day on a property if the property is vacant and the title is clear. So
that's yeah. Oh, sorry to interrupt, but
no.
It's interesting. I'm seeing a lot of like, for example, I have a wholesaler buddy in Jacksonville, and he's doing, I don't know, I think he does about 50 transactions a month, and he's tied in with these hedge funds now. And it's interesting that in the single family space, they're like paying 95 cents per dollar, value wise. So they're paying almost retail for their rentals for single family right now. So we saw this back in, what was it, like 2010, right? They all started buying single family, and they're back now doing this again, which is interesting. It's I don't know. So they're doing, there's high acquisition, it seems like, in a very kind of what I would look at as a peaking market. So it's interesting that they must know something that I don't know, because they're putting, hundreds of millions of dollars into buying single family rental properties right now. I mean, if you look at in the multifamily space, people are still buying multifamily, right? So
Yes.
I think the word on the street is that people still need a place to live. And so if you own this real estate in these select markets, there's a ton of buyers.
I would say,
And a ton
just
of
to
renters.
tell the audience, Bo, like hedge funds, Jennifer, you want to expand on it a little bit more? Are these different hedge funds as compared to hotels, restaurants, or they are like diversified? They are in single family. I never thought that the hedge funds will be in single family residential. Maybe not. Yeah.
So here's how they're telling me that they're making money. The ones that I have spoken with that I do business with, here's their business model. They buy them to then turn them into rentals, turnkey rentals. They make their money on the property management side of things, from the ones that are paying those super high, above 90% ARV, after repair value, for people who are new. And it does make it so I can give them the best of both worlds. I can give them a fair market retail price with cash offer convenience. And to me, that's a winning strategy, because working for other investors, I've always been stuck in this middle ground of, okay, I can give you a cash offer for at best, 60 to 70% ARV, or I can refer you to our brokerage arm that's going to put you through the retail gauntlet. And people, they're like, but I want a high price with a cash offer. And I'd say, sorry, the world doesn't work that way. Well, thanks to these hedge funds, now the world does work that way in certain primary markets where, again, the marketing is tough. So you have to persevere in those primary markets. You have to keep pushing and not give up, because whenever you do get a deal, you're going to be able to dispo it easily. So it really depends on your exit strategies and your dispo connections and your buyers list.
So kind of what I'm taking out of this, I had an interesting conversation with my buddy that runs a fund where they lend money strictly in California the other day. And he's like, Bo, like during COVID, the savings rate nationally went up by $12 trillion because nobody was going out. Nobody was going to restaurants anymore like they were. Everybody was staying home. So nobody was like spending money on gyms and things like that. So our savings are up and our credit cards are down, apparently, nationally. That's what this gentleman told me. And so the question is what I was thinking is, like, with all this kind of COVID going on and coming back and this and that, is I was a little bit like, well, what's going to happen? Are we going to see a big slowdown in the housing market? And kind of like, I guess what the hedge funds are seeing is that they think we're going to have another probably a 2 or 3 year bull run, and that their plan is to keep on acquiring real estate, which is interesting because I would have thought the opposite, but I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know everything, right? So it's interesting to see these trends. And I didn't think about the savings rate. You would think that it would be opposite, but when you really think about it, did my savings go up because I wasn't going out to sushi every day? Yeah, it did. So, which means that there's a lot of cash ready to be deployed. So it's totally opposite what I would have thought. But when somebody mentioned that and said, yeah, that kind of makes sense now that I think about it, that there's an extra $12 trillion in savings right now. And credit card debt is down apparently across the board, which I find completely interesting. So I guess people are anticipating that we're going to have another strong couple years of housing.
Yeah, no, housing is going to stay. I mean, but what you just mentioned, of course, all the trends of looking at the millennials, of course, their needs, and also the international, influx, if we do get that, of the, foreign people coming in. And then, of course, the seniors, right? We talk about that also quite a lot, seniors' housing needs. But in the residential, what markets are hot, Jennifer? I mean, you mentioned about wholesaling also. So, give us some perspective, how you said something about Oklahoma before the show.
Yeah. So for some reason, one of the areas that the hedge funds I'm speaking with are really looking to acquire in are the Oklahoma City market. And so, and I feel fortunate that I'm in between Dallas and Oklahoma. So that gives me a lot of room to be able to acquire locally But I also like to acquire on a national basis as well, having had the benefit of working from coast to coast for other investors completely unnoticed as but a humble cold caller. I have been able to see which markets are mature, which ones are maturing, and which ones are starting to cool off, and it's really hard to get a good deal. And so from coast to coast, I would say, believe it or not, Seattle is starting to, even though they were probably one of the most mature early on, my lists are getting big traction in the Seattle area. I get a pretty good contact rate out there. And the Boise market was appreciating at 25% per year earlier this year. So I was able to do a nice flip out there. By the time the flip was done, the appreciation had already paid for the cost of the flip. So, that's great. Let's see here. Where else have I been? Arizona has a lot of competition right now, but that's kind of been nothing new for the last couple of years. Vegas, where you are, Bo, I did a campaign out there a couple of years ago, so I'm not sure exactly where that one is right now. I mean, I could literally go from coast to coast. Right now, Omaha is pretty mature in terms of, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of space for that. But there's a tool that you can use, Vinney, that will tell you where the hot markets are. And it's
which one is that? What's the name?
So if you just go to PropStream,
P-R-O-P, PropStream?
Yeah, if you go to PropStream, PropStream, there is a button on there, and I could go there, like it's kind of like if you know how to get somewhere and you're driving in your car, but you may not be able to tell someone else.
Yes.
I can show you, maybe send you a video on Facebook where you just go to this button on PropStream and it shows you where the greatest appreciation has been over the last 5 years. So if the appreciation's been really hot, it'll be like a dark red spot. And I think the coolest is green. So where we try to acquire doing virtual acquisitions across the United States is we try to look where the red spots are and try to get a green next to the red, because you're going to get a good deal in that area because it's still a low priced area next to a place that's highly appreciating. So PropStream makes it easy to see on a map on a national basis. You just have to kind of zoom in a little bit based on a zip code, but you could go coast to coast and see, okay, where has the most appreciation been the last 5 years and where's the least appreciation been? And you want a stark juxtaposition as to where you're going to send your marketing efforts.
Awesome.
And PropStream is a tool that a lot of residential real estate investors use because there's a lot of you can pull contact information. It's a very, very good tool. I think I know a lot of investors that use that, and I don't even know how robust it is, but I know you can pull lists. You can get marketing information. You can get contact information. And then, there's other tools that you can layer on top of that where you can hone in and get contact information and so forth. If it's not showing, I think they might even, there's all these tools now, right? Like you can get anything you want, right? So you just got to figure out what actually works. And there's PropStream.
This is the one. Can you all see this one?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I think
that is it.
We try to give our audience, some of the experiences. So not that bad at all. It's a very small fee to have the list automators and the team members, all that good stuff. Awesome. Yeah, no, we come back here. So let's see, what else can we tell our viewers, buddy? I think we are coming towards the end of the show. How can people reach you, Jennifer? Yeah.
So I have 2 websites. I have one for my agency, which is just phonephoenixagency.com. If you're needing any type of inside sales in any industry, we do industry-specific training. And then on the wholesale side, I am at powerfulpropertysolutions.com. So either one
Wonderful.
of those, or you can find me on Facebook. 'Cause I'm pretty active on there under
Yeah.
Jennifer D. Steward.
Yeah.
And feel free to send me a private message, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. And is there anything, Bo, that you feel like we should cover
Yeah.
for people who are just getting started? Because I really have a passion to kind of help those people.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah, I think we should do another call on just strictly like, the basics of like scripts, the
Yes.
basics of picking up the phone, the basics of when to call, what times work the best, what may work, rapport building, right? Jennifer, we've talked about
Yeah.
that before. I mean, it's just, listen, like there's ways of sounding non-salesy and just
Absolutely.
building immediate rapport. And Jennifer, I've gone back on multiple conversations because, at the end of the day, you got to be, if you're going to be doing this, if you're, and you shouldn't be afraid, right? Like if you want to make money. So like, for example, before you got on today, Jennifer, Vinney and I were talking, he's like, I'm looking for multifamily in this market, this market, and this market. So it's like, okay, a guy like Vinney can afford to potentially put a caller in for him. And like, right. Like now we got to figure out, okay, what's Vinney's marketing strategy? Okay. He's looking for multifamily properties, 100 to 400 units in these select markets. So let's first do a search of the top brokers. Let's get somebody to call and build a relationship, because Vinney probably doesn't, at his point in his life, doesn't probably want to be doing this that much. Like he'll get on the second or third call.
Right.
So, but you could, Vinney, the point is that you could be outsourcing this to somebody who gives good phone, right? Like probably does a better job because he or she is going to be representing you.
Mm-hmm.
and building that relationship. So that would actually probably be it'd be interesting to see the ROI, right? If you had somebody that spent a couple hours a day calling, top brokers in those markets, and then also doing outreach to, the mom and pops that might own a 150 unit building that want to sell, right? And so I think
those are the best. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think we could have a lot of success just implementing, because I think really everybody wants all these fancy, elaborate plans on how to get leads and this and that, but so many people want to build this machine. And granted, pay-per-click does work because I run some pay-per-click ads and get 1 or 2 leads a day, every day now. But also that, I think the cost-effective way is, picking up the phone, right? And just
nothing can take away that. You're so right. And I've done it in the early part of my life. Lots of sales calls, lots of cold calling last 40 years. And so for myself, my own business, and have had a lot of people. So are your teams in USA or they are in virtual also? Like you said, Pakistan, you said sometime.
Yeah, most of the people who make the calls for my particular brand of agency, they are all people who are native to the United States. I have had people in the Philippines before. I don't currently.
Okay.
Because I find that people come to me wanting a native US salesperson to kind of give that local touch, especially these companies that are from outside the country. They want someone in the United States to market to the United States market.
Yeah. Jennifer, I just something dawned on me this morning, or even yesterday. I was thinking about, I had hired a company to put me into interviews with some great shows, right, in USA. I think I've been on 242 shows so far. So my and thinking is that I want to get more shows, spread the good knowledge and training and things like that. So have you done anything like that, or that is very much up your alley to take a project? Huh? What do you?
I have not had any requests from clients to get them speaking engagements. That would be new, but I've learned in every industry, someone has already created the wheel, and it's only a matter of someone showing you how that wheel was created and then repeating that.
Surely.
And yeah, you can have a quick learning curve if you have the right person teaching you how it's done.
So true. I mean, I'm glad you said that. I mean, everything we try to invent in our life, somebody's done it. Somebody's put a lot of thought into it. If we can just go and understand, and then even make it a better mousetrap, let's say,
Right.
Like, so true, so true. We don't have to invent, and a lot of these things we talk about, their repetition. you know,
Yes.
the same words in different formats, and people attract themselves, or when they say, a teacher appears when a student is ready. That's sometimes the case. Many times student is not ready. There are a lot of teachers out there, but the
That's right. Well
appear when
said.
you want. Yeah. Now, on that note, let's wrap the show. Bo, last comments, bud. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Jennifer. I think
Thank
you
you.
you
Thank you.
reinforced this as always, is that whether you're going to do it yourself in the beginning and then grow and then outsource, the tried and true is never going away.
Yeah.
So if you can be a good communicator, at the end of the day, if you can communicate well
Yeah.
and learn these skills where people know, they end up liking you and trusting you because your tone of the voice, the way you position yourself, they're more inclined to do business with you, right? Like when I get a sales call,
Yeah.
exactly. Sometimes you'll go stay on the call because it's a good sales call,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes you click right away. And
Yeah.
so what's the difference? And I think in future episodes we'll have to kind of get into the psychology of cold calling and sales, right? Because that's at the end of the day, that's usually what most of us are. We're kind of some media agency in one way or the other. Like Vinney he's raising money. He's a media agency,
Yes.
right? And at the end of the day, that's what we do. And I have to be a media agency to get new loans, right? People need to hear me somewhere. And so what's the best way I can leverage that? Maybe doing podcasts, or maybe speaking in front of 1,000 people or 500 people, right? So we're all communicators and media companies first, and then
So
whatever
true.
our skill is. But anyways, I thought it was a great call or
No,
show today.
totally.
As always, a little bit different because we haven't talked about
Yeah.
dialing for dollars and strategies and what people are doing in this market to be successful. And the funny thing is that although we have all this technology and it's made it easier in ways, it's still all about picking up the phone and making
All in
calls.
picking up the phone. Sales is the biggest engine of any business. I
Yes.
mean, sales and marketing, so many times we try to take care of other parts of the business, but the sales and the accounting, I say, those two engines are so important to really thrive, in any business. Jennifer, thank you for your time, your contributions. Kind of catch you after this show. We're going to just go outro. Then I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.